Welcome back to the Great Primeval Show. I am the Ark Minister, and I'm joined by Ancient Realms and Hodgepodge. Today we'll be breaking down Episode 1 of Primeval Series 3, also known as Crocodile Fears in North America,
Nachts im Museum
in Germany, and
La Cage du Soleil
in France. Written by Steve Bailey and directed by Tony Mitchell.
We open to the British Museum in London in late afternoon as everyone prepares to leave for the day. This is one of the few locations filmed at the actual place named in the episode. It's also the most London-centric episode of the show, with the majority of it taking place around London's South Bank by the River Thames, which helps further situate the Ark as being in London. We see the storage section behind the scenes at the museum, with many ancient Egyptian artifacts, including an imposing structure in the centre of the room made of black stone, the sun cage, a fantastic prop for this episode. Here we meet Marion, working on some ancient artifacts and noting down the stock on her notepad. Marion. Kinda sounds similar to another archaeologist-type lady.
Abner was sorry for dragging me all over this earth looking for his little bits of junk.
The whole atmosphere and music of this scene, and entire episode in fact, is reminiscent of Night at the Museum. It's also cool how this episode utilises Egyptian-sounding instrumentation.
Anybody there?
Marion hears a clang, but sees nothing, the metal likely reacting to what's to come in a second. The shots of the ever-onlooking figures carved in the sun cage and surrounding statues tell no secrets, but watch and wait. It's spooky to see them like this in the dark. As she leaves the room, an anomaly suddenly opens in the middle of the sun cage, and a horrendous-looking crocodile roars through the anomaly before it collapses in on itself as we cut to the titles. Luckily, that creature moved its head back into the past before this happened. The anomaly design appears to have changed somewhat from Series 2, but not dramatically. It is of the same design, but the surrounding shards are silver now instead of gold. The core remains gold though. The shards seemingly spin faster as well. The main change is that the anomalies no longer make the noise when someone passes through it anymore. The other noises remain the same. Note after the anomaly closes that the light cast from the anomaly remains. Unlike the opening of Series 2, this series does not have any recap of any past events, which is kind of a shame, as it would have helped bridge the gap between Series 2 and 3 more, and establish what's to come in the show. The Primeval titles remain unchanged design-wise, except for the blue tinge from Series 2, which has been removed, and is now back to the grey like Series 1. The photos of the characters have all been updated to promo photos taken of the cast for this series, instead of screenshots from the episodes. The new photo of Douglas Henschel is a mirrored promo shot which hasn't been publicly released. This is the closest photo we could find. Andrew Lee Potts has moved forward into what was James Murray's position, and uses a new promo, but mirrored. This is the closest photo we could find. Lucy Brown has now moved forward to Andrew's old position, but the text for their credits are still backwards, which is a little continuity error. This is the actual promo shot. Hannah's spirit has moved forward towards Lucy's position. This is the promo shot but mirrored. Taking Hannah's old spot is the new character, Sarah Page, played by Leila Ruas, and has this mirrored promo shot. And there are new photos of Juliet Aubrey and Ben Miller, which haven't been publicly released. All the creature clips are also updated, mainly using Series 2 clips. The future predator has been changed to the Camo Beast from Series 3 Episode 2. The Solorosaurus flock is replaced by the Merqueen from Series 2 Episode 4. The Dodo X-Ray is replaced by the Silurian Scorpions from Series 2 Episode 5. The Raptor is replaced by the Columbian Mammoth from Series 2 Episode 6. And the Smilodon is replaced with a Clamped Future Predator from Series 2 Episode 7. Also, the shard that previously showed uncredited images of Mark Wakeling and Carl Theobald is no longer used for a character, and is replaced with a clip of the Pristachampsas from this episode. This seems like a missed opportunity to add Belinda Stewart-Wilson, who plays a new character for Series 3, Christine Johnson. The new character of Captain Becker, played by Ben Mansfield, remains absent from the credits, for now. However, he is credited on screen directly after the titles. Series 3 has 4 versions of the title sequence. This version of the titles is used for episodes 1 and 3.
This exterior shot of the Ark establishes a new look for the organisation. Now an extra heavy-duty fence and security gates have been added for protection, whereas in Series 2 the Ark was seemingly in an open area, allowing for people like Helen to easily sneak in. The shot is composited together with the Duke of Kent building at the University of Surrey in the background, and in the foreground, the fence is from Docklands in London. Strangely, the Ark has its logo and name plastered on the outside fence. Interesting choice for a secret organisation. It seems like many things are branded with the Ark logo in Series 3. The interior of the Ark has also undergone a major redesign. There is much darker and heavier blue lighting now. I guess Jurassic World took inspiration. A large black circle has been painted on the ops room floor with the logo in the centre. Lots of lab tables with equipment have been set up in the ops room around the ADD, with many new staff members working there. Lester's office windows and the hallway door windows are tinted blue. Additionally, the doors are framed with tread plate. Down the hallway, many of the side rooms have been filled in with walls, making the space feel more cramped and less open. And many of the rooms have changed positions. Most notably, the gym is now Cutter's extended office, the kitchen is now the locker room, and the armory is now a storage room. It's unknown why all these changes were made in-universe, but it was done by the new production designer. Thanks, Michael Ralph. Just to clarify, we don't hate the guy, we're just not fans of his work on Primeval. We are introduced to the new head of security, Captain Becker, played by Ben Mansfield, and is being briefed by Lester. He sports an Ark-branded uniform, presumably custom-made to fit. Looks good.
Sucker for a man in uniform.
Whilst never stated on screen or even in the credits, his first name is Hillary. Becker is often shown with a grenade launcher on his gun, which he never uses.
As you may know, we've had a number of unfortunate lapses recently.
Lester is of course referring primarily to Stephen's death, but possibly the last head of Special Forces leader Jake Hempel leaving, as well as the numerous soldiers who died in Shadow of the Jaguar, the Lost Island and Extinction event.
You detect anomalies and fight dinosaurs when necessary.
Love how nonchalant this line delivery is.
I have extensive experience in dinosaur handling, sir.
Perhaps Becker previously worked at Prehistoric Park, but actually his background is in Afghanistan. Becker attempts his first joke of many, to which Lester slyly comments,
I'll do the jokes. You'll be dealing with a highly strung and temperamental team of rank amateurs who just happen to be brilliant at what they do.
Amateurs. Us.
You and your men will stick to them like glue.
Ah, so finally looks like Lester is bringing back the Special Forces to help the team. Thank goodness, after their notable absence in Series 2.
We can't afford another Stephen Hart, is that clear?
No more Helen side quests for this team. Hopefully.
Oh, by the way, Professor Cutter won't like you and he'll go out of his way to make your job as difficult as possible. Try not to take it personally.
This is very accurate. The new Ark theme plays here for the first time, a consistent theme throughout this series. We are introduced to another new main character for Series 3, Dr. Sarah Page, as she gives a lesson about ancient Egyptian embalming to youngsters at the British Museum, very enthusiastically. Marion prevents her from studying the sun cage further, dismissing her knowledge of the subject.
And they were considerably more qualified than you.
Mentioning events in the early 20th century is extra lore for Primeval.
Which?
For the longest time, I always thought she said,
Bitch.
Note you can just see the cameraman reflected in the window. This shot of the Ark exterior is reused footage from Series 2, Episode 1. This is because contractually the Toyota Hilux has to appear in every single episode, and they must have forgotten to film with the Toyota. Cutter sits at his desk in silence, with a funky new floppy 90s Hugh Grant haircut. Clips from Series 2, Episode 7, with a higher contrast are shown as Cutter flashes back to Stephen's sacrifice.
Don't you ever go home?
He was waiting for you, Jenny.
No one blames you.
For what?
What happened to Stephen wasn't your fault.
Yeah, I know. It was Helen's.
This dialogue is recapping the events of Series 2 for the audience, so it doesn't necessarily make sense for Cutter and Jenny to be saying this. It's framed as if these events had just happened recently, since in the show it was only one episode ago, but in canonical chronology there was the novel Extinction event, and a 1 to 2 year period between Series 2 and 3.
But you can't change the past.
Yeah. You don't know the half of it, Claudia Brown.
Claudia?
Jenny's appearance has also softened, as previously she always had her hair tied up, whereas now it's down, and it's seemingly dyed a maroon colour. This visually makes Jenny look more like Claudia. You could say that being around Cutter is bringing out the Claudia in her. Jenny suggests going to get some food. It's not necessarily a date, but definitely forward romantic interest at least, with this balmy Scot. A side note here that many fans have noticed, Dougie's performance seems somewhat lacking in this episode, and though it does pick up in episode 3, it does feel like Dougie is tired of the role a bit. This could all be intentional, of course, since Cutter's witnessed his best friend die and was betrayed many times by his wife, making him become emotionally numb to things. It's up for debate. In any case, maybe his somewhat emotionless performance should have warned us for things to come.
Been told I don't have a very expressive face.
Marion enters the museum warehouse where the sun cage is. When she moves to leave to no doubt do more Sarah scolding, she spots the anomaly underneath the cover in a beautiful shot as you can see the shards are shimmering. This appears to be a practical light effect under the cover. The shot cuts away to the empty museum as Marion becomes crocodile fodder. Note the creature must have knocked the cover off the sun cage when it came back through. Do you think it got stuck on its head and was running around like this? As Cutter and Jenny attempt a flirtatious night out, the anomaly detector puts a stop to their plans. Cock-blocked/clam jammed again. Cutter phones Abby, who has the daunting task of waking up Connor from his slumber. Abby has yet another new flat this series, with this one seemingly on the ground floor, and the wooden rafters are now metal. Other additions include a taxidermy crocodile. Very odd choice for animal lover Abby. Connor has seemingly upgraded from sleeping on the couch to an actual bed since Series 1.
Rex. Breakfast.
We see Rex eating lettuce, despite his species being speculated as insectivorous. Note you can see Andrew's wrist tattoo here. Previously he always had sleeves on, or the Series 2 wrist cover thingies. Arm wraps? Sure, let's go with that. So canonically, Connor has a tattoo now. Connor and Abby arrive at the museum to be introduced to Becca.
Do as he says.
Unless I think he's wrong.
Way to undermine your new security's job. Classic Cutter. Connor reveals he got locked in a museum toilet for 3 hours after staying behind one night to see whether the exhibitions would come to life. This isn't night at the museum, but sure. Cutter discovers Marion's body, dead and mutilated. Marion? More like Carrion. Odd that her shoes and jacket are off now.
It's an animal kill.
Obvious.
Sarah is just about to leave the museum when the team intercept and corner her. Obviously startled by the sudden appearance of the group of strangers, Sarah makes the logical assumption they are thieves.
Actually, I'm a professor.
If you listen carefully, you can hear a variation of the Primeval theme, with instrumentation matching that of the Egyptian-esque music from this episode.
Never seen a professor with a gun before.
So much for the gunner version. Weird she's allowed to stay on the premises. Surely she should be evacuated from the anomaly site as a civilian. For some reason the whole team spot Marion's body for the second time. This seems to be an editing goof. Marion's body also appears to have moved closer to them. Naturally, when Sarah sees her, she panics and runs off.
Dr. Page!
Not sure why the whole team run after her, and are so far behind. Sarah decides to run further into the building rather than exit and finds herself in the sun cage room, where an active anomaly now hangs in the centre of that big old Egyptian thing. A large crocodile-like animal rises from behind a stack of boxes to confront Sarah alongside a haunting choir. The team arrives in the sun cage room after it runs out the loading dock, leaving Sarah behind. Just pointing out that the team had anomaly detectors in hand, yet walked around the museum for a while and only found the anomaly because Sarah accidentally led them here.
You okay? I'm guessing not.
I saw the goddess Ammon.
This is our first comparison to ancient Egyptian mythology, expanding the primeval mythos beyond the present day. It's also setting up Cutter's story arc for the next few episodes.
Ancient civilizations spoke of monsters and dragons. Perhaps they weren't as naive as we assume.
Sarah believes the ugly crocodile is really Amit.
Flag tracks. Biped and quadruped.
Okay, two things, Abby. How did you decipher that it's walking bipedally and quadrupedally within a few seconds? Or better yet, how did you find footprints on a concrete floor?
I've got to get back to the Ark. The Ark?
Not that one.
This is a reference to Noah's Ark from the Bible.
Connor, stay here, see if you can work out what period the anomaly's linked to.
With one sentence, Cutter condemns Connor to remain in one location for the rest of the episode. Cutter and Abby take off after the monster croc, and we get a classic Connor line.
I bet I can read your mind.
Seemingly to prove her character, Sarah has a rebuff to Connor.
Actually, I was wondering why an Egyptian demon was trying to eat me.
I don't know if it's just me, but having a new character undermine the existing one comes off the wrong way. Especially because Connor is at his best when he's making a fool of himself, not being undermined by others. This is the first of many interactions between these two in this episode. Back at the Ark, via phone call, we are introduced to this series' antagonist, Christine Johnson.
Christine, what an unexpected pleasure.
Being stationed in Jamaica prior to coming back to the UK explains Christine's absence in the first two series.
I missed the rain.
Said no one from the UK ever?
The minister has put me in charge of military liaison with the Ark.
This is a seemingly new role, as the Special Forces were notably absent in Series 2, and perhaps the minister thought the situation was getting out of hand.
His words, sir, not mine.
Having a political adversary in the form of Christine, and somewhat the minister himself, gives a new dynamic to Lester, as previously he was always seen as the highest governmental figure and always called the shots, whereas from here onwards we have Lester having to fight to maintain his control.
I'll see you in an hour.
Well, actually...
A change which is debatedly good for his character. Funnily, Ben Miller and Belinda Stewart Wilson were married at the time. This leads to some very interesting confrontations between the characters.
I think Velociraptor only better dressed.
This quote is also somewhat derivative of Cutter's quote about Jenny in Series 2, Episode 5.
She looks amazing.
So does a Velociraptor.
For some reason, instead of calling Lester, Jenny decides to leave the incursion just to tell Lester in person. What is the important information she needs to tell him?
A creature has escaped through the anomaly.
What is it?
We don't know.
Wow, that's it? Was that even worth an update?
Well, can't you look its picture up in your big book of dinosaurs?
It's not a dinosaur!
And then Jenny also asks Lester what to do with Sarah. Isn't it her job to debrief eyewitnesses? Managing public relations? Anyway, moving on.
This is the Eocene crocodilomorph Pristochampsis, and it doesn't look great. To start with, the genus is now dubious and has since been reclassified as Bovarysuchus. Primeval's Pristochampsis is portrayed as a facultative biped when it likely would have only walked on all fours. It's also odd that they chose a croc relative known for having long, running legs, yet here it walks slowly, be it on 2 or 4 legs, and swims. Looking at the Pristochampsis' model, because of the association with the Egyptian goddess Amut, the torso looks quite humanoid? The chest looks to be shaped like a human's, and it rears up in a human-like posture. Needless to say, it looks very strange for a croc body. The model has 4 fingers and 3 toes, with claws on all of them. It should have 5 fingers, with the innermost 3 having claws, and 5 toes, with the innermost 4 having claws. One of its fingers seems to be an opposable thumb, which the real animal also didn't have.
Everybody got that?
It has crocodile-like feet when it should have hoof-like claws, and it was thought to have run on its hooves like modern ungulates, chasing down fast prey. Some have said the markings on the chest are meant to represent Egyptian hieroglyphics, but I'll let you be the judge. Looking at its behaviour, as with most primeval creatures, Pristochampsis is shown attacking any human it sees. However, there is an exception. It doesn't eat anyone, and appears almost hesitant when it confronts people, as if it's waiting for them to bow to it and treat it like a god. This can be seen when it first appears to Sarah, the traffic warden, and the team later. Sarah figures this out at the end. When it does attack, it appears that it attacked Marion by biting her neck. Modern crocodilians aren't really known for targeting specific body parts like this. Rather, they tend to just bite whatever they can get a hold of.
Go for the jugular! The jugular!
They also mostly use tiger sounds for this creature, even though modern crocodilians were right there. The graphics on Connor's database for Pristochampsis flashes a bunch of Ornithischian dinosaur groups for some reason. This image of Pristochampsis matches the pose of the Safari Limited minifigure. The concept art also looks interesting.
It walks like a man.
Finally, looking at the Egyptian inspiration for Pristochampsis, Amut was a goddess in ancient Egyptian mythology that had the head of a crocodile, the front quarters of a lion, and the hind quarters of a hippo. Not really similar to Pristochampsis at all. but there were rumours that this episode's creature was instead going to be Entelodon, which would fit the more hippo-like qualities Amut has, but I guess that Entelo didn't happen. Maybe Sobek would have been a more fitting Egyptian god to base it on for this Pristichampsus, seeing as this creature has a tendency to stand bipedally, and it was a human with a crocodile head.
We get a few establishing shots of London waking up with the sunrise, alongside some ominous music, which sets up events to come, notably the Thames River, this traffic warden, then Abby and Cutter searching. Back at the museum, Becca closes the shutters, and Connor asks Sarah about the hieroglyphs. This particular hieroglyph looks like the Pristichampsus. Passing a gate near the water, Abby reacts to the blood on her hand before she touches it. You can also see this is on Buckingham Street. Connor opens his trusty toolbox, and a spanner gets affected by the anomaly's magnetism, and in the process breaks a fragment off the sun cage.
Egyptian builders?
There's some things to note about the selective magnetism. This spanner is a chrome alloy, and thus not magnetic. Also, none of the other metal objects around are affected.
The sun cage is cursed.
Sarah makes up a story of the sun cage being cursed to scare Connor, to which he immediately drops the fragment. Connor probably believes this because of the popular portrayal of Egyptian curses, such as Tutankhamun's tomb.
The dead one.
A bit blunt, Connor.
Sorry about that. Bad luck.
Bad luck.
As Connor sits down, he also knocks and breaks another artifact.
You call this archaeology?
Meanwhile, Abby and Cutter are hot on the trail of Croco Boy.
Stephen would have known what to do.
Abby brings up their fallen team member, to which Cutter reacts like this. Perhaps he's trying to hide his pain?
I just took a reading from the anomaly. Whatever came through it is at least 55 million years old.
Eocene epoch.
Connor somehow manages to do something we've never seen before, or again, he accurately dates when in time the anomaly links to, despite this not being explained at all. In Series 4 Episode 7, this same idea comes as a major revelation to the team. This traffic warden may seem familiar, as he previously appeared as a paramedic in Series 2 Episode 2. The Pristichampsus attempts to appeal to this guy about the parking ticket placed on his vehicle, but he's not having it.
Everyone loves parking Pataweo.
Cutter and Abby hear the commotion and go to investigate. Becca also goes to join them.
Action Man said he's coming.
Sarah starts to study the hieroglyphics on the sun cage and determines that the icon which was previously interpreted as the sun is in fact an anomaly. So Sarah did in fact discover new information, despite Marion's assurance that she wouldn't. This particular hieroglyph appears to depict the anomaly within the cage. Connor deduces that the sun cage is able to contain anomalies because the magnetic anomaly is moved by the most magnetic stone on Earth. Magnetite does indeed naturally occur in Egypt as black sand on the coast, overlooking the Mediterranean Sea, from Rashid to Rafah. You can see Connor's mind working here as he comes up with an idea. He, with the help of the Special Forces, attempt to move the sun cage to see whether the anomaly moves with it. Seeing that it does confirms that the magnetite can be used to transport anomalies. Whilst this isn't really expanded upon in this episode, or even Series 3, this technique of transporting anomalies comes into use for Series 5 Episode 6. Interesting to note that the anomaly was transported from Egypt to Britain whilst closed, meaning that the magnetism of anomalies is still present even when closed. Yet again, Cutter was right.
The anomalies may be intermittent, and they fade from time to time, but they never completely disappear.
While Connor is distracted by this new revelation, another Pristichampsus grabs him, seemingly by the back of his waistcoat, and not his bottom. After fending his attacker off, Connor decides that they need to block the sun cage up to stop anything more coming through. Cutter and Abby find the traffic warden's body. Again, it's mostly untouched apart from some blood. Becca also arrives. Cutter then finds a tooth which he hands to Abby.
A river.
They then run off and leave Becca's car and the dead body, for some reason. The Pristi boy enters the River Thames, which looks great honestly, and the rest of the team track it there. The locational irony of the Egyptian not god being at Cleopatra's Needle is not lost on us.
I think I know what you're going to find.
Between Connor's reading and Cutter's speculation, they both simultaneously determine that the creature is a Pristichampsus. Whilst the reading bit is a bit far-fetched, it's nice to see these two both work it out together as a part of a collective scientific mind. That's a cool shot of the croc swimming, similar to the Ambulocetus from Walking with Beasts, and the Chasmatosaur from Walking with Monsters. We also get a shot of the London Eye as the camera pans out of the water, showing the close proximity of the danger lurking below. We are shown the home office for this series, which isn't the same location as the one seen in Series 1. This one was filmed at the old War Office building. This is the only time we see this location, and it's a shame as it's another really cool place. The Ark theme also plays here again. Christine Johnson holds out her hand quite deliberately, waiting for Lester to shake it. How British. Also when she compliments him about his suit, you can see how awkwardly Lester takes it. Christine explains that she's been appointed to offer support to the Ark by the Minister. This support, however, never really happens, and Christine instead hinders the team throughout the series.
That's not the general perception. There's a feeling that perhaps the situation is too extreme for you to handle alone.
This might be referencing the most recent events, such as everything regarding Leak's organisation and the Russian shenanigans in the novel Extinction Event. Christine cuts the meeting with Lester short when a soldier appears in frame. This is minor character Captain Ross, who appears in a couple of later episodes as a sort of antagonist. Lester appears confused but doesn't question it, and is escorted out of the building. Ross has a stitch on his left cheek, likely from a creature attack.
'Tis but a scratch.
He shows Christine a photograph of a hexagonal-shaped prison, which she asks him to obtain. How she knew about it or where to get it is another matter. This is the item known as the artifact throughout the series, and its origins are ambiguous. We'll talk more about it in episode 3 of this series. If you look closely, you can see Lester glance back at Christine here, which is a nice little detail. Ross then explains how he lost the artifact, and we are shown a flashback to the future? To some ruins, showing himself and a team almost getting it before being attacked. The future predators are back in force and attack and kill all of Ross's men, with one dropping the bag containing the artifact in the process. We also get our first look at predator vision for this series, with the surrounding area appearing blue and heat sources appearing red. Also nice to see the baby future predator model being used again for this series. Ross flees, abandoning his men, as the predator drags them away. What's also interesting to note is the overexposed filter of the place he's in, but we'll talk much more about that later on. Suffice to say, Christine is most displeased, and reprimands Ross for failing.
With respect, Mom, my men died trying to find that thing.
With respect, Captain, that is your responsibility.
If Christine doesn't know what the artifact is, how did she know where it was? Had they done scouting missions previously and just stumbled upon it? How did she learn of its supposed importance without knowing what it does? These are pretty substantial questions that just get glossed over. Series 3?
Cutter spots the Pristochampsus exiting the water in a shot where the CGI looks surprisingly good. Connor and Sarah are blocking the anomaly. Andrew Lee Potts had forklift training for filming scenes, but they weren't filmed. This is his reaction.
Forklift.
Despite their efforts to barricade the anomaly, another Pristy boy breaks through to the present, likely the same one from earlier which had a cheeky nibble of the Connor area. Connor uses a light as a defense, which the Croco bites and electrocutes itself, transferring this surge of energy into the anomaly. In a new phenomenon not seen previously with anomalies, it locks when a surge of electricity is passed through it, making the shards collapse on themselves into a tight sphere. When Connor pokes it with the end of the floodlight, it repels it, showing that nothing is able to pass through it whilst it's in this state. Connor begins to speculate, but before he gets anywhere, the anomaly unlocks itself as a metallic object zaps into it.
Okay, I'll figure it out later.
When the team find another kill, Becca states,
"You have no option but to use live rounds."
And Cutter begrudgingly agrees. This is in line with Cutter in the novels, where he is more prone to mercy kill or kill if creatures are deemed too dangerous. I love how this guy continues cutting his food for a good few seconds before fleeing. That food was expensive, damn it. This shop / cafe / auditorium is filmed at the South Bank Centre. This guy is also very lucky in that he manages to get away before being snapped. Lion and tiger growls intensify, because why would you use crocodilian sounds for a crocodile? Jenny makes a somewhat convincing cover story about a charity fun run to a group of people. Interesting to see her tactics for this. Probably should have gone with an escaped crocodile story.
If you just follow me, I promise you there's nothing to worry about. You know how these charity fun runs can go way out of control.
Champy somehow ends up in a concert hall, to which the person playing the piano also doesn't stop and or notice the Eocene entity. Upon entering a room with a cleaning lady, she of course doesn't notice the reptile on account of her using a vacuum cleaner, which obviously blocks out all sound. Cutter yells, "Just shoot it," very similar to what he said to Stephen in Series 1, Episode 5.
Stephen, for God's sake, will you shoot it?
However, when he says it here, it's clearly added in ADR, as Dougie's lips aren't moving. Abby almost shoots Cutter by accident here. Is that foreshadowing?
Sorry.
If you are going to shoot someone unintentionally, at least aim for Connor for revenge. Abby is forced under the table by the croc, whilst Cutter distracts it. We hear the lady speaking a foreign language. The subtitles claim it's Lithuanian, but the actress is Romanian, who also speaks German, French and Spanish, but apparently not Lithuanian. So we don't know exactly what she is saying. If you can translate what she says, please let us know in the comments. Ever the daring hero, Cutter rescues the cleaning lady and says something reassuring to her in her language. He was a lot nicer to this one compared to the last cleaner he encountered.
Health break.
Cutter and the cleaning lady plummet over the edge using a convenient fire hose as El Champo falls, injuring itself on the concrete. A pity crocorectomy didn't leave a Wile E. Coyote-style crater. I cannot believe the other two let me keep crocorectomy in the final version.
Oh, Cutter.
Why does Jenny sound like a disappointed parent here? Realising the commotion is over, Abby leaves her safe space and joins Becca to locate a dangling Cutter. How he gets down is never answered.
Are you okay?
Yeah, just enjoying the view.
The crocodilo gets vexed and takes it out on these tables, which is just a way for the special effects team to show off the blending between real life and CGI.
Looks like it's heading back to the river.
It probably wants to go home.
This shot is reused from earlier, just mirrored. Christie swims back the way he came to head for the anomaly and home to its own time. This idea of a creature doing this is quite similar to the Scootosaurus from Series 1, Episode 1.
Let him go! Let's scare him! Let's see where it thinks is safe!
Back at the museum, Connor has fully blocked up the anomaly.
Hello. Looks like Prissy Champus is heading your way, so make sure it can get to the anomaly.
Sarah looks very upset over this, and I don't blame her. I appreciate that time is of the essence, but Connor, there's probably priceless artifacts in those boxes. Note that Sarah is carefully moving the boxes, as she knows their value. The fall from earlier must have injured its leg somehow, as it's now limping and leaving a blood trail. Someone call the cleaner. You can also see a big bruise on its chest when it rears. A nice attention to detail is that the injury and limping leg are both on its left side, which is the side it landed on earlier. Despite Connor saying that it's following its own scent, the Pristo Champ comes through the rest of the museum and enters through the other doors and not the shutters. Connor is then caught in the crossfire and decides to do this for some reason.
Don't let him get me.
Becca insists on shooting the poor chompy chum, similar to how Ryan reacts in Series 1 to the creatures.
Bow.
This works. Sarah suggests treating old Champsus like the god Amut to see whether it responds accordingly.
I'm not bowing.
Becca protests, but is quelled by Cutter, who trusts scientific knowledge over the brute force of soldier logic.
Kneels before God.
Sussing that these mortals are no threat, the Croco god decides it has seen enough of London and enters back through the anomaly alongside some cool choir as the anomaly closes in perfect timing. Very convenient.
Is he gone, Smith?
Connor falls off his perilous predicament and somehow doesn't break his neck.
Ow!
Nice call.
Sarah and Abby joke about not telling Connor that the curse was made up. This is fun?
You know what? I think Stephen might have liked this one.
Interesting that Cutter doesn't get upset here, unlike with Abby. Perhaps that time just caught him off guard.
I think he might like our Dr. Page even better.
Back at the Ark, we hear Cutter telling Connor to research into magnetite and anomaly locking. Only one of these actually gets developed in this series, and the other one gets forgotten about until a Series 5 throwaway plot device.
Literally.
We get a grand version of the Ark theme as Sarah enters the ops room for the first time. Lester talks to Sarah and tells her not to tell anyone about the anomalies. I guess that's why the team brought her to the Ark? It's weird that she's the only one that they've ever brought here, because at this point they weren't planning to hire her.
Just not very good at taking orders.
You should fit right in then.
Lester also lists Sarah's Egyptology background. Kind of a poor exposition to get us to like her. Sarah is then taken to one of the labs, where Cutter and Lester are apparently chilling. Upon mentioning legends such as Amit, Cutter's brainwaves activate.
Legends.
Cutter talks about the idea of legends being based on past creatures here, as if it's a massive new revelation. Yet he already speculated about this all the way back in Series 1, Episode 3.
I've been thinking two-dimensionally.
You're not thinking fourth-dimensionally.
Even so, it's a cool idea and adds to the anomalies opening throughout human history. Surprising it took this long to have an episode to prominently feature something like this. Though the novels Shadow of the Jaguar and Extinction Event also feature creatures based on myth. After being excited about this new notion of myths and legends, Cutter insists to Lester and offers Sarah a chance to work with the Ark to look into these stories and find their sources.
Or you can go back to lecturing school kids.
Sarah agrees fairly quickly and becomes the newest member of the team.
Great news, I feel safer already.
Cutter is eager to have as many people researching on finding a pattern to the anomalies, which also links to his theories in the next 2 episodes.
What do we do about the sun cage?
Before Cutter can answer Connor, Lester fills everyone in on the future of this structure, leaving it kind of ambiguous as what happens in the future.
The culture minister tells me the exhibition's moving on.
That belongs in a museum!
The sun cage is heading for Pyongyang in North Korea. Well, they certainly have the weapons to deal with an incursion. Good luck, Kim Jong. You can also hear some Eastern sounding instruments here, which is a nice touch.
Away from the plot of what we've seen already in this episode, this door is forced open and...
Here comes the Crimson Jim, here comes the Crimson Jim.
The Cleaner Clone army, as seen at the end of Series 2, arrives and sets up a temporary base in an empty building, followed by their creator. Helen Cutter seems much more habituated back to the present again, and is seen wearing more civilian-like clothes instead of her khaki green boiler suit.
Put that somewhere safe until I work out what it is.
Helen reveals that the artifact that Christine wanted is now in her possession, as she flashes back to also having been present when Ross's men were killed. It's unclear whether she knew it was there, or she just got lucky with chancing upon it. We see her grab it and only just escape with one of her clones back through an anomaly surrounded by sheer cliffs and a ruined city. We later find out that this is in fact the future, as teased throughout Series 1 and 2. Note that Helen must have had access to another anomaly that wasn't in Christine Johnson's HQ, and not the racetrack anomaly either, as she had no knowledge of the latter. Despite that fact, she and the clone appear to run through the anomaly leading to the racetrack we'll later see in Episode 8. This could mean that all 3 of these anomalies are fault line anomalies. On this intriguing cliffhanger, the episode then cuts to credits.
Several changes have been made for this series. James Hannigan has taken over as the main composer for the music. However, Dominic Skura is still credited, and his main themes from Series 1 and 2 are still reused in this series. After the end credits for each episode of Series 3, the Impossible Pictures logo now has an animated anomaly in it, instead of a creature image. In closing, Episode 1 takes place around 12 hours, and it's unclear how much time is between this and the next episode. Join us next time for the breakdown of Episode 2 of Primeval Series 3.
Wait. Are we forgetting something? Hi, it's Alfred from Primeval Legacy, and I'm here to tell you about Primeval Evolved, the interactive web companion game that ran parallel with Series 3, with each segment releasing immediately after an episode dealing with the fallout of the story and teasing future events. Most of the main cast appeared in specially filmed segments to create a fully immersive experience, and Kate McGowan also joins as a mysterious new character. If players used a special clue word released at the end of each episode and completed the tasks for one of the first 9 weeks, they could enter a prize draw to win Professor Cutter's jacket, the real costume piece used from the show among many other runner-up prizes.
Welcome to the Ark.
My name's Lester. I'm in charge here, right? The operations area, some of our labs, and of course, anomaly detector.
Everyone at the Ark is in great danger.
We've got a theory that they're not myths at all.
The Ark's work is important and needs to be protected. Someone may be trying to infiltrate it. Someone who wants to change evolution to control the future.
The premise for Primeval Evolved is set up in a short intro sequence that was released just before Episode 1. At the Anomaly Research Centre, you, a new lab assistant, are starting your first day on the job. You are welcomed by Lester, who shows you around the Ark, followed by a meeting with Abby and Connor, who show you your laboratory. After they leave, a mysterious woman called Eve appears on your TV and warns you to look out for a strange artifact. I'm sure she's 100% trustworthy and not at all evil.
Liar!
Notably, episode 1 takes time to pause when you see the artifact so you can identify it. You are then able to look around your lab and interact with various items and lab equipment which update every week. In your emails, Jenny Lewis introduces the team to you. In the microscope, there is human DNA. On the radio, a report of a man who is apparently trampled to death by an unusually large hippopotamus. In Abby's sketchbook, there is an illustrated profile on the future predator of Velociraptor and Smilodon. In your in-tray, there is a document detailing new head of security, Captain Becker's military background, and a note from Lester informing you to follow all of Becker's orders. And finally, there is a voicemail from Lester, leaving a message for Connor, telling him that the new lab assistant is due to arrive soon.
Welcome to the Ark.
Good luck.
Week 1 of Primeval Evolved was released 2 days after episode 1 aired, with the clue word being myth. Connor and Sarah arrive in your lab and tell you about the mythological creature research she is doing for Professor Cutter. In your emails this week, Connor tells you about the start of his new video log or vlog called Temple TV. Under the microscope, you can find Pristichampus skin. On the radio, the story of a man who's raised a pet crocodile in his own home and then was eaten while releasing it into the Thames. Abby's sketchbook has a profile on the Pristichampus. On Temple TV, Connor talks about ancient Egypt and all the mystery surrounding it.
Hi, I'm Connor Temple, and this is the first episode of Temple TV. Yeah? See what I've done there with the name thing?
In your in-tray, Becca apologises for delays entering the Ark due to new security protocols. On your voicemail, Jenny apologises for not actually meeting you and says she'll try and see you in person soon. And in your documents, information and pictures on the Loch Ness Monster and the Jersey Devil. Starting the first game, Myth Mapper, Eve appears on your TV and she warns you about Cutter's new research and asks you to take photos in his office. Once there, you play a game involving the mythological creatures on a map, and after you send the photos to Eve, she then warns you about Christine Johnson. We'll be recapping all of the weekly releases of Primeval Evolved in these Series 3 breakdowns. We'll see you next time.